Go ahead, Max.
Sweet. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Can you guys see this? How do I play the slideshow? View.
And hit present.
Right
Yeah,
corner. You should see the present button. Oh, yep, that works too.
Sweet. So, identifying vintage t-shirts. This is a topic that I'm super excited about. T-shirts are my favorite article of clothing to buy and sell, and actually differentiating an old t-shirt from a new one is actually a lot easier than you think. So I'm not going to go into super deep detail on how to date your clothing down to like the specific year or the specific time period of the year, as that would take up way too much time and I could like talk forever about it. But what I am going to do though is break it down into 3 key giveaways on how to tell if it's vintage or not. And then hopefully you can remember that the next time you pop into a thrift store. So the first and biggest giveaway is the t-shirt single stitch or not. So identifying vintage tees, you have to look at the collar and sleeves. So if you look at these 3 photos, the first 2 are vintage, as you can tell by the single stitch on the sleeve and collar. This one's later 90s, so it has double stitch on the sleeves, but not the collar. And then this one on the very right, if you guys can see that, is a newer t-shirt. So it has the double stitch on the collar. If you guys can see like the 2 stitchings where the t-shirt and the collar meet. So t-shirts from 1995 and before were all made with the single stitch. And then afterwards they started phasing in the double stitch. So that's a key differentiator on how to tell if it was made in North America and if it's vintage. So that's not like a 100% thing. Like there are very few t-shirts that are made like today that are single stitch. There was a few before 1995 that were double stitch, but the vast majority are single stitch that are vintage. So next is probably my personal favorite and probably the most useful in identifying the age of vintage tees is the tag. So a lot of you might not know this, but people who are into like vintage and stuff, they're like obsessed with the tag. I'm a huge tag nerd. Like my favorite vintage tag is Fruit of the Loom. So this one right here, it just fits kind of oversized. It's like super thick cotton and just fits me the best. So that's probably my favorite. Everyone has their like favorite tag. And a tag can really bring up the price of the t-shirt too. Like there's some rarer tags that you can look for that can take a t-shirt that's almost exactly the same. You could get a t-shirt from 1995 with the Rolling Stones on it, but one has a Screen Stars tag, and then one would have a Hanes tag. The Screen Stars tag is probably the most coveted, so the difference between tags could mean like $50 to $100. So really research the tags that you're finding, and they will all be the vintage ones will mostly be North America, so Canada and the US. So make sure you look towards the bottom. There's usually made in wherever, and the one at the bottom here is a newer tag. You could probably tell they put a lot more effort into like the design of the tags back then and stuff. So yeah, I'm a huge tag nerd. You can pretty much identify everything you need to know. But some people like to ruin my day and rip off the tag because it's itchy on the back of their neck. So this final step, if you combine the first one and this final one, you should be able to tell without the tag. So the final one is the copyright date. It seems pretty obvious, but a lot of people overlook it. If you're going to look at the date stamp, it's usually a good way of telling when it was released, but you can get like graphics from that are date stamped like 1972. Like The Simpsons, for example, it's an older show. You could get a date stamp on the graphic from when the artist created it, but it could be a newer shirt. So you have to look at if it's single stitched or doesn't have the tag. You look at like the sleeve too. So the copyright date is a really good way at finding if that tee is from the 90s or 80s. A lot of the tees in the 80s were 50-50 blend. So I think it was like polyester and cotton. And then the ones in the 90s are all 100% cotton mostly. What's really cool about the ones in the 80s is you'll get the cotton like washing out. I have one right here. And it'll only mostly be polyester, and then it becomes like super see-through and like stretchy, and it's like it almost feels like a workout shirt. I don't know if you guys can like see how thin it is, but it's like super thin. I don't know, but yeah, you can get like super see-through t-shirts from the 80s just because they're the 50-50 blend. But yeah, hopefully those 3 little steps helped you out a little bit, and you can carry them next time you hop into a thrift store.
Thanks, Max. Awesome job.